Now, here's George Roberts.
I'd like to introduce you to Bob Hay. Bob happens to be a broker with Keller Williams Real Estate here in Stroudsburg, but the unique thing about Bob is that he is celebrating 50 years in real estate. That's amazing, Bob.
Thank you.
That is incredible. You began your real estate career in 1976.
March of 1976, yes.
I can imagine that things were so different back then because, of course, we really didn't have like computers. Everything was done with paper, a lot of loose leaf binders. I'm sure the MLS was interesting back then.
Yeah. Back then the MLS literally was a loose leaf notebook that we'd get the listings once a week, and I would come down to the Pocono Mountains Association of Realtors, rented a small office space right here on 7th Street, and we'd come down and we'd get a printout of the listings and solds for the week. And then we would get the new listings, and I would go back to the office and put the new listings into the loose leaf notebook, and that's how we started, and went that way for quite some time. And then we got the big MLS book. So that was published in black and white, and that only came out once every 2 weeks. So if you wanted to put your home on the market, literally it didn't get out to all the members for 2 weeks, or it could be up to 2 weeks.
Sure.
So then the book was around for many, many years. All the members of the association would go to the association office and pick up the books and return the old ones because they would be recycled. And then we started to get into computerization, and we had dumb terminals, which maybe you remember what that was, which was basically a terminal that was information, but you couldn't update anything, you couldn't do anything to it.
Oh, so it was all like coming you one way, basically.
Yeah,
right.
And then we gradually went into regular computers and desktops. My first desktop that I bought was like $3,500, and which was a huge investment at the time.
Right.
And
that was still pre-internet. I mean, you got
that was still
pre-internet.
Pre-internet.
Yeah.
Pre-internet. I started on the internet back in 1995.
Okay.
I've always attended real estate conventions and was very active in the realtors on the state, national, and local level, and I would go to conventions, and they'd be talking about the internet and how the internet was coming to the forefront. And I was at a session one time, and the speaker asked how long you were in business and so forth, and he said, if you do not get into the internet, you're going to be out of business in 5 years.
Wow.
So I kind of took that to heart, and I got a website, and I was one of the first in Monroe County to really advertise on the internet. And
that was pretty smart of you.
Yeah.
You got bobhay.com, is that
bobhay.com. I got my
I would imagine today that would have been impossible to get, but back then.
Yeah, I got bobhay.com, and so I bought sign writers for sale signs, and I put "Meet me on the internet," www.bobhay.com.
Yeah.
And I had started to grow business that way, and many realtors said, it's telling my competitors, were telling buyers and sellers, oh, that's just a fad, it's going to go away, and all that.
I was wondering,
so,
they were probably looking at you like, what is he doing?
Yeah, so bobhay.com took off, and to the point where people that know me would call me bobhay.com instead of Bob Hay. So, but
That's pretty good.
It works, and I'm still obviously using it. Obviously using it today.
Let's go back in time a little bit to the early days of real estate. First of all, where did you have your office?
The first office I was in Tannersville. I got my license, and I started part-time in 1976, March of 1976, for a small firm that was known as Ray Mraz. You probably remember Ray Mraz in Tannersville. He was just he and his wife, and then I was actually the first salesman. And I started in it in March, and I really wanted to make it my career because I was traveling on the road as a salesman, driving 60,000 miles a year.
What were you doing?
I was selling floor coverings on wholesale level. So I would call on dealers, retail dealers, and sell floor coverings. And I knew I didn't want to do that the rest of my life. So I wanted to get into real estate, and I went into it with the idea that if I'm going to work it, I can't do it because I was the sole breadwinner at the time. I could not do it full-time, but I was going to do it part-time. And I gave myself a year to get into the business full-time, to get away from my other job. And fortunately, I was able to do it in 6 months. So
Oh, wow.
September '76, I started full-time. My whole career has been here in Monroe County, and I have never had to take another job doing anything else, even through some very difficult times. So I'm very pleased and happy with that.
So those early days in the late 70s, early 80s, what was the real estate market like then?
Yeah, that's a good question, George. It was totally different than what it was today. When I started into it, and for the first many years, probably 80% of my business were for vacation homes, 20% for primary homes.
Okay.
And so we were, much bigger percentage of vacation homes, and also did a lot of lot sales. Now, I wasn't a dirt salesman, but we did. Ray Mraz had a lot of, not a lot, but several investors that would develop a tract of land, such as Buck Valley Estates in Bartonsville, and some others in Bartonsville, where they were 1 acre lots, and I would sell the vacant lots off.
So you spoke with a lot of people that came up here. Why did they want to come here to the Poconos?
Well, with the vacation people, they obviously were taking advantage of the Poconos, and it was obviously much different then than what it is now. But they were taking advantage of being able to come up for the weekends, and it's close enough to New York, Philadelphia area. So that's really what took it off. What started the movement for the people moving from New Jersey and New York to commute into to live in Pennsylvania was a fellow and he passed away not that long ago, a fellow by the name of Doc Bolin. Doc Bolin ran ads, and he ran ads in the Star Ledger magazine. It would take out full page, move to the Poconos, only an hour and a half away from New York and so forth. And that was, he bought a subdivision up in Tannersville, and that's how he started getting the movement. And that I say is really what started the migration for people to move to Monroe County and commute back into New Jersey and New York.
I'm with Bob Hay. He is a realtor here in the Poconos for 50 years. And Bob, let's talk a little bit about you. For people who don't know you, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Bartonsville,
Okay.
Which is all shopping centers now. But I grew up in Bartonsville, graduated from Stroudsburg High School. At the time, the Vietnam War was going on, and the draft was in place then.
Okay.
And so when you came up to graduating high school, you had a couple of avenues that you could take. One is to college, and if you did not go to college, you could pretty well figure that you were going to get drafted within the next couple of years. And so I enlisted in the Army, and because I felt that I wanted to choose what I did. I didn't want to get drafted and end up doing something I didn't want to do for a couple of years. I'd rather volunteer for 3 years and do something I wanted to do.
Right, so you got in.
So
but college wasn't the way you didn't want to go that direction.
Yeah. Back then, I did not want to go in that direction. So at graduating high school, I went to work for Lehigh Valley Dairy delivering milk.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
When they had a facility in East Stroudsburg, and I delivered milk to stores and all. So I went in the Army and spent 3 years. Spent 1 year in Vietnam, and
That was the time you were there, 1968.
It was during the Tet Offensive.
Right, and
Yeah.
were you at the air base there? That was in
Benoit.
Benoit.
Yeah, Benoit Air Base.
Were you at the air base there?
I was in the Army, but we were stationed at Benoit Air Base. So
At the air base.
At the air base.
Right, and that's where the Viet Cong in 1968, they were trying to infiltrate the air base.
And they did. Yeah, they did. If you can imagine, the Army, the air base was like 2 levels in terrain wise, and the Army was on the more of the mountainous side, and the air base part was down on the lower side. But all the jets came right over us because that's they were going in.
Yeah.
But yeah, when the Tet Offensive broke out, you know, in the Army you're always infantry first. So when Tet Offensive broke out, why they did infiltrate and get in through our perimeters during that time.
Tough time for you.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very. Yeah.
After that, you came back to the U.S.?
Yep, I came back, and then I was stationed after Vietnam. I got stationed in Fort Detrick, Maryland, for 14 months, and then I got out of the Army, and I came back and went back to work because when you left your employer back then, when you got out of the military, they had to give you a job back. Fort Detrick's in Frederick, Maryland, 3.5 hour drive from my house, and I went down on a Monday morning and signed the discharge papers, got out of the Army. I left and came up, and I went over the Lehigh Valley Dairy on my way home, and I said, I'm out of the Army. So whenever you can, I'm ready to go back to work.
Sure.
And the manager over there says, well, how about this afternoon? and I said, yeah. I said, I can do that. So I went home, changed clothes, went back to work. The same day I got out of the Army.
Yeah. So then eventually you got into another job with, like you said, you were delivering flooring,
Right.
or selling
Selling
flooring, right?
yeah.
Selling flooring. And then you telling us earlier about real estate. But along the way, you met your wife, Beverly. How did that come about?
Yeah, fortunately, that came about because I spent driving on the road covering eastern Pennsylvania and New Jersey and a little bit up in New York State. But I would stay overnight because one of my main areas for my business was in Reading, Berks County. And Bev happened to be at the front desk of the Holiday Inn where I would stay every Monday night.
Right.
And so I that's how I met her.
Right.
And so when people would ask, how do you meet Bev, I always say I met her in the Holiday Inn.
That's a good story.
Yeah. So but ironically, Bev graduated from ESU. So
Wow.
she was familiar with the area.
Yeah.
So
Very. It's interesting how things just
yeah,
come right
it
around.
really is. So,
You moved to Mount Pocono.
yeah.
Why Mount Pocono?
I actually moved to Mount Pocono in 1971. Actually, it was before Bev and I were married.
Okay.
So I moved there in 1971. It was just to happen that there was a new home that I bought a new home in '71 that a builder had built on spec, and I built it there, or bought that, and moved to Mount Pocono. And back then, when you lived in Bartonsville and you moved to Mount Pocono, it was like you moved to Maine.
Right.
So,
Right.
So why in the world would you move to Mount Pocono with the cold weather and all of that?
Yeah.
So that was 1971, and here it is, 2026, and I'm still there in the same house.
Yeah, and through the years, besides working in real estate, you've done many other things. For example, you were with the Pocono Mountain Volunteer Fire Department.
A very good friend by the name of Dave Carey. You may have remembered Dave Carey from the Chevrolet dealership. He was a very good friend, and at the time he was chief of the fire company. So I got into the fire company. And that's how I got involved, and then great group of people. I felt that anybody that gets up in the middle of January below freezing and jumps out of their warm bed and goes out to fight a fire is kind of special, pretty special people. And they were a great group of guys. And I enjoyed 15 years there, and I served 2 years as fire chief.
Once again, this is Bob Hay. Bob has been in real estate here in the Poconos for 50 years, currently a broker here with Keller Williams in Stroudsburg. And Bob, speaking about your real estate career, I know that you served as president for the Pennsylvania Association
Yes.
of Realtors. When was that?
I served president of the association in 2008 when the great real estate crash happened.
Oh, yeah.
But I'd obviously been very involved with the Pennsylvania Association of Realtors for a lot of years, worked myself up through the chairs, and it's something I did. You know, not long after I got into the real estate business, I always felt that I wanted to do something and leave the industry better than what I found it. And so I got involved with the local association of realtors, moved on to the state association, and moved up through the chairs, and then served as 2008 president. And it's probably for my real estate career was probably the highlight of what I've done. From that standpoint.
You lived through, of course, or you worked through, I should say, in the 80s when things were fantastic up here. Things were selling left and right.
Yep.
Then you had the crash in 2008. And then things weren't too good for a while. We worked our way back slowly a little bit, but then COVID.
Right.
Which is, I mean, in your 50 years, you've seen all kinds of stuff. Let's talk about COVID.
Yeah.
That really changed things.
Yeah, so COVID hit, and now what happened in 2008 is obviously the bottom fell out of values, and people lost a lot of money at that time if they had to sell. And it took us probably 10 years to recover from that. Yeah. So then COVID hit, and we were at 6 weeks that we could not go out and show houses and everything. Then things started to open up, and when they did open up, it just went crazy.
What was it about our area? I mean, people wanted to move to this area, get away from the city and everything, right? Is that what it was?
Yeah, that was a big part of it, because people, and I had a lot of buyers that said to me, I never want to get into a situation like I was this time with COVID, because I was, you know, they would say to me, you know, you have your home and you have a nice big yard. I've got no yard. I'm locked up in my apartment I'm not going to have that happen again. So then they bought. And a lot of those people that I sold vacation homes, they made that their primary residence for a period of time.
Right.
Because they wanted to get out of the city.
Right.
So, but then yeah, prices took off, and it was really crazy. You know, I mentioned the transaction that I had. I had a home over in Penn Estates, lakefront home. In one weekend, I had 49 showings on it. I had 23 offers in one weekend. And
that had to be a record, right? I mean,
I've never seen anything like that. I was literally a policeman at the lot, because there was 5 and 6 cars at the end of the driveway wanting to come in and see the house.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how crazy it was.
Yeah, you've seen a lot of interesting things. Let's talk about another direction you went in. Chairman of the Pennsylvania Northeast Regional Railroad Authority. Yeah. Did you always have a fascination with trains, or is this something different? Had to do with economic development?
No, this is something. Yeah, a lot of people ask me, do you have I don't own a train set.
No train sets or nothing?
No train sets. But anyway, what had happened was, and we have to give credit to the Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce had a transportation committee, and we would meet once a month over at Molly's on Main Street. There was about 8 or 10 of us. We would meet, and we got discussing about the problems, believe it or not, the problems on Interstate 80 and all the traffic on Interstate 80. And we need to do something, because we were having all these commuters, and we have to do something. So the transportation committee of the chamber went to the board of directors of the chamber and said, we'd like to ask that the county reactivate the railroad authority, because there was one before. Okay. And that's what the chamber did, and I ended up being, the first couple of months of the reorganization, I was a liaison between the chamber and the rail authority, and then after a couple of months, the county commissioners asked if I would serve on the board, and that was 1987. And so then it flushed it. I could be here all day telling you about the history on that one. But anyway, I was asked to chair the authority in 1992, and I have been been either chair or vice chair since 1992.
It's been the running joke here, of course, that the train's coming, and people have laughed about it. But now it looks like the train may be actually coming.
Yeah, yeah, and really, so many people say, well, why all of a sudden does it look like the train's coming when you've been working on it and it's been talked about for so many years? And the reason is the bipartisan transportation bill that was passed a few years ago.
Okay.
There was $66 billion put into Amtrak for new starts, and Amtrak named the service from New York City to Scranton as one of their priorities that they wanted to see new service to.
For people out there thinking about real estate, getting into real estate, I'm sure that when you first started, maybe 30 years ago or so, you have one thing that you tell people about being in real estate. But what about today? There's got to be a difference between then and today. Why people should maybe consider it as a career?
People have to really look at it as a career and really do some research and find out what's involved with getting into the real estate business. Because we see a lot of people that get licensed and get into it, but a lot of them don't last, and it's just because they're not educated when they came in, or they didn't have their eyes wide open when they come in. Because quite frankly, it's not an easy business. It's not a matter of getting your license, which is very easy to do. It's not a matter of getting your license and now you're running around and showing homes, and I get a big commission check because I showed a few homes, I wrote an offer, and it doesn't work that way. There's a lot to it. However, it's a very rewarding career, and you can make it a very good profession if you go about it at the right way. One thing I can say, 50 years in the real estate business, I'm 79 years old, and as I look back on things in my life, George, I don't have any regrets on anything I've done. I'm very satisfied with that.
Bob Hay, great wisdom.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your
Thank you.
50 years,
Thank you. I
Bob.
appreciate it.
Appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you.